Have you ever asked everyone for advice, yet still felt lost inside? You talk to friends, mentors, even scroll through endless videos, hoping someone will tell you what to do. But deep down, your heart already whispered the answer. You just didn't trust it enough to listen. Today, I want to remind you of a powerful truth. Nobody can give you wiser advice than yourself, because the voice you keep ignoring might be the only one that truly knows what's best for you. When life throws questions at you about love, purpose, or direction, your first instinct is often to look around for answers. You ask friends, family, or people who seem more experienced than you. You read books, listen to podcasts, and search for someone who might know better. But here's the quiet truth. No one walks in your shoes. No one carries your exact experiences. And no one feels what you feel when you wake up in the morning or when you lie down at night. The wisest answers often come not from the world outside, but from the stillness within. That voice inside you, the one that gently whispers even when you're afraid to listen, that's your inner wisdom. It knows your fears, your dreams, your scars, and your strength. It has walked beside you through every mistake and every victory. Your inner wisdom isn't loud or forceful. It doesn't compete with the noise of the world. It speaks softly, like a calm breeze passing through your thoughts. But most of us have forgotten how to hear it. We drown it under the constant chatter of opinions, expectations, and fear of judgment. We look for shortcuts through other people's advice, forgetting that their guidance comes from their perspective, not ours. The truth is, no matter how kind or wise someone else may seem, they can't see your life the way you do. They can't feel the weight of your choices or the quiet calling that stirs in your heart when you think about what truly matters. Inner wisdom is not something you have to learn. It's something you have to remember. It's been there all along, waiting for you to pause long enough to listen. Every time you followed your intuition and it led you right, that was your inner wisdom guiding you. Every time you ignored it and regretted it later, that was a lesson, a reminder that you already had the right answer inside you. The more you trust this inner compass, the clearer it becomes. You begin to see that you don't need to chase advice or approval. You simply need to trust the voice that already knows where you belong. This voice doesn't rush, it doesn't panic, it moves with peace, and it waits for you to quiet the chaos long enough to hear it speak. It's the same voice that tells you when something doesn't feel right, even if it looks perfect on paper. It's the same voice that whispers, "Try again," when the world tells you to quit. That voice, your inner wisdom, is not just a guide, it's your truest friend, your deepest teacher, and your most loyal source of truth. In a world that never stops talking, silence has become one of the rarest treasures. Every moment is filled with noise. The buzz of notifications, the chatter of people's opinions, the endless scroll of ideas and advice. We've grown so accustomed to external sound that silence often feels uncomfortable, even strange. Yet, it's only in silence that true clarity begins to unfold. When you quiet the noise around you, something powerful happens. Your mind begins to slow down, your thoughts start to untangle, and your inner voice finally has space to speak. That quiet space becomes the meeting point between your confusion and your truth. It's where the fog of uncertainty begins to lift, revealing what your heart has known all along. Silence is not emptiness. It's not the absence of sound. It's the presence of awareness. It allows you to see what's been hidden beneath the surface, the fears you've been avoiding, the emotions you've suppressed, the desires you've ignored. When you give yourself moments of stillness, you begin to notice how often your mind runs on autopilot, repeating worries, replaying mistakes, or chasing approval. But as you sit in silence, something shifts. You start to separate your true thoughts from borrowed ones. You begin to hear not what the world wants from you, but what your soul is quietly asking for. That's the power of silence. It clears the fog that constant noise creates. The greatest clarity doesn't come from thinking harder, it comes from thinking less. It's born in those moments when you stop trying to figure everything out and simply allow yourself to be. It's in the pause between one breath and the next, when you stop forcing answers and start listening to what rises naturally within. In silence, your emotions settle like dust in a still room, and slowly the picture becomes clear. You realize that the direction you've been searching for isn't missing. It's just been buried under too much noise. When you give yourself permission to be silent, you step into alignment with your own wisdom. You learn that peace is not found by escaping the world, but by finding calm within it. Silence becomes your mirror, reflecting truth with unshakable honesty. It doesn't rush to fix or to please, it simply shows you what is. And when you finally stop to look, you see that clarity was never something you had to chase. It was something waiting to be revealed the moment you became still enough to see it. Overthinking is like a storm that never ends. It circles in your mind, pulling you deeper into confusion instead of clarity. You replay conversations, analyze every detail, and imagine every possible outcome until your thoughts become a maze with no exit. The more you think, the less you trust. And the less you trust, the more you think. That's the cruel loop of overthinking. It convinces you that thinking harder will bring better answers, when in truth, it only drowns out the quiet wisdom already waiting inside you. Your inner guidance isn't found in chaos, it speaks through calmness. But when your mind is overloaded with noise, doubts, and endless what-ifs, that guidance gets lost under the weight of your own mental chatter. Overthinking doesn't come from lack of intelligence, it comes from lack of trust. Trust in yourself, in your instincts, and in life's natural rhythm. You start questioning every choice, seeking validation for every move, and relying on logic for things the heart already understands. You become afraid to act, afraid to decide, afraid to make a mistake. But wisdom doesn't bloom from fear, it grows in faith. Faith that even if you don't know every step, you'll figure it out along the way. When you overthink, you disconnect from that faith. You forget that your intuition was built from your experiences, your lessons, and your quiet reflections. It's not blind guessing, it's your soul's memory guiding you forward. The tragedy of overthinking is that it keeps you stuck in preparation mode while life keeps moving. You spend so much time predicting the future that you stop living in the present. And it's in the present that intuition speaks the loudest. Every great decision you've ever made came from a moment when you stopped overanalyzing and simply knew. That knowing didn't come from a spreadsheet of pros and cons. It came from the part of you that senses alignment, when something just feels right, even if you can't explain why. That's your inner compass trying to lead you, but overthinking turns down its volume. Your mind may be powerful, but it's not always wise when it runs unchecked. Wisdom needs space to breathe. It needs stillness to speak. And when your thoughts race endlessly, wisdom quietly steps aside, waiting for you to slow down, to release control, and to remember that your best guidance doesn't come from thinking harder. It comes from trusting deeper. Self-trust is the foundation of every strong and fulfilled life. It's the invisible power that turns uncertainty into confidence and fear into faith. When you trust yourself, you stop begging the world for permission to move forward. You stop asking others to tell you who you are or what you're capable of. Instead, you begin to live from your own center, calm, grounded, and sure. Self-trust doesn't mean you'll never make mistakes. It means you believe you'll handle whatever comes, no matter what. It's the quiet conviction that says, I may not have all the answers, but I have enough strength to find them. That belief alone creates momentum, a momentum that carries you through moments when everything around you seems uncertain. Most people don't fail because they lack ability. They fail because they doubt themselves before they even begin. Doubt is like a heavy chain around your potential. It keeps you tied to hesitation. You keep second-guessing your instincts, waiting for the perfect moment that never arrives. But those who rise, those who achieve greatness, are not the ones who never feel fear. They're the ones who act in spite of it. They've built trust through action. Every small step taken in courage builds another layer of faith in yourself. Every challenge faced and survived adds another brick to your foundation of inner power. You start realizing that confidence isn't something you're born with. It's something you earn by keeping promises to yourself, by standing back up every time you fall. The more you trust yourself, the less control fear has over you. You stop depending on outside validation to feel worthy or capable. You begin to hear your inner voice more clearly and follow it even when no one else understands your path. That's where true power lives, not in arrogance, but in quiet certainty. When you trust yourself, you don't need to prove anything. You just know. You move differently. You speak differently. You lead differently. Because your strength doesn't come from what others think. It comes from the solid truth within you that says, I can handle this. Self-trust turns confusion into direction and doubt into energy. It transforms the impossible into the inevitable, because once you start believing in your own voice, nothing external can shake the foundation you've built from within. In a world that moves fast and demands instant answers, reflection has almost become a lost art. We live in a culture that rewards speed, quick replies, instant opinions, immediate reactions. But wisdom doesn't live in reaction. It lives in reflection. The moment you pause before you respond, you give yourself the gift of clarity. You shift from emotion to understanding, from impulse to insight. Reflection allows you to see beyond the surface of a situation and recognize what's really happening, not just what your emotions are shouting in the moment. Every reaction you resist gives birth to deeper wisdom because it shows that you're learning to master yourself instead of letting your circumstances control you. When you choose reflection over reaction, you step out of the chaos and into awareness. You begin to ask yourself important questions. Why am I feeling this way? What is this emotion trying to teach me? What's the truth underneath my frustration? These questions transform situations that once felt overwhelming into opportunities for growth. Instead of letting anger speak for you, you learn to let understanding guide you. Instead of rushing to prove a point, you learn to protect your peace. Reflection gives you the space to see things from a higher perspective, one that isn't clouded by ego or fear. And from that space, your decisions become stronger, your relationships become healthier, and your mind becomes calmer. It takes courage to pause when everything inside you wants to react, but that pause is power. It's the moment where emotional maturity is built. You begin to realize that not every comment deserves a response, not every opinion requires your energy, and not every situation needs your participation. Reflection helps you preserve your strength for what truly matters. It helps you understand that silence can be louder than words, and patience can be more effective than confrontation. You learn to listen to your own thoughts instead of being driven by them. Life constantly tests your ability to stay centered amid pressure, misunderstanding, and conflict. But every time you choose to reflect instead of react, you take back control of your inner world. You start leading your emotions instead of being led by them. That's where true wisdom grows, in the quiet gap between what happens to you and how you choose to respond. Your life is a journey only you can walk, and your inner compass is the quiet guide that knows the way. Every person you meet, every experience you have adds to your understanding, but no one can chart your exact path for you. The world will always have opinions. People will tell you what's right, what's wrong, what's possible, and what's not. They'll project their fears, their limits, and their beliefs onto your dreams. If you let those voices steer you, you'll lose connection with the only guide that truly understands your direction, your own inner compass. This compass is built from your intuition, your experiences, and your values. It doesn't shout, it whispers. It doesn't beg for attention. It waits for you to listen. When you begin trusting that compass, your steps become steadier, your choices become clearer, and your peace becomes stronger. Your inner compass doesn't guarantee that the road will be easy, but it guarantees that the road will be yours. It points toward authenticity, the path that aligns with who you truly are, not who the world expects you to be. When you ignore it, you feel lost, even if your life looks perfect on the outside. But when you follow it, you feel at home in yourself, even if everything around you is uncertain. That's the difference between living someone else's version of success and living your own truth. Following your compass may mean saying no to things that everyone else is saying yes to. It may mean walking away from comfort or approval, but that's how you create a life that feels right, not just one that looks right. There's a deep peace that comes when you stop seeking direction from outside and start trusting the guidance within. You stop running in circles trying to meet everyone's expectations. You stop measuring your progress by other people's timelines. Instead, you begin to move with quiet confidence, knowing that even if you don't see the full map, the compass inside you will always point you toward what's right for you. It may lead you through uncertainty, but it will never lead you astray. Your life is not meant to be a copy of anyone else's. It's a unique story being written by your own choices, guided by a wisdom that no one else can fully understand. When you honor that inner compass, you reclaim ownership of your direction and reconnect with the deepest truth of who you are. Trust that quiet voice within. It already knows the way. You don't need louder opinions. You need deeper listening.